Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Extending AWS Capabilities for Regulated Betting and Gaming Environments. If you're interested in how you can leverage the cloud and hybrid architectures to support your business, or if you're navigating the challenging and diverse world of regulations and technical compliance, then you're in the right place. In the next half an hour or so, we're going to discuss the challenges we all face in the betting and gaming industry today, how the AWS and Continent 8 partnership has been supporting the industry over the last few years, as well as briefly discussing a case study customer that has had some fantastic success across the US, leveraging AWS and Continent 8. Finally, we will talk a little bit about how the partnership is developing and how we are embracing multiple technologies to make your life just that little bit easier. But let's get started. I'm Carl, Regional Sales Director here at Continent 8, and prior to this, I founded the betting and gaming team at AWS. Joining us is Matteo.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Matteo Gabrielli. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect in Continent 8. I joined the company early this year. I spent the last 5 years in AWS as part of the betting and gaming team. And yeah, looking forward to be here and talk to you all.
And Manthan?
Hey, my name is Manthan, and I'm a Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services. I've been focusing for the last several years helping customers in the betting and gaming space build resilient and performant architectures. And I've also had the pleasure of collaborating with Matteo and Carl, solve key challenges that our customers face. So excited to be part of the session.
Well, without further ado, let me try and sort of frame maybe some of the typical challenges we're all facing today, and then we can begin to dive a little bit deeper. So in order to operate in a compliant way, we need, unfortunately, to run hybrid environments. And this already poses challenges from networking to architecture and indeed those technical compliance concerns. Mix into that these hybrid architectures are required market by market, and the compliance requirements differ and change over time as well. The overhead and burden on your teams can be huge, right? Finally, there are many development houses and legal advisors we can call on, but very little real-world experience in our industry that's focused and technically capable. Uniquely, I believe at least, our partnership, AWS and Continent 8, can begin to bridge this gap for you and support you as you move into the next new market or develop on the existing one. So, Matteo, maybe if you'd just like to sort of talk about a little bit about AWS and Continent 8 and where we are today with our partnership.
Yeah, sure. So our partnership wants to really address for the customers these unique challenges that we have in the regulated betting and gaming industry. What we do as Continent 8, the fact of being a partner, is extending the AWS capabilities and, let's say, inject also some expertise from the people working here and the several teams to just support gaming operator suppliers. If we see already since a few years, we are an AWS Advanced partner. In fact, most of the expertise comes from Outpost deployments, right? If you think about Outpost, more than 90% of the outposts in the industry are hosted within a Continent 8 data center. And also all the connectivity required to connect the on-prem location to the hyperscale as AWS. What we also do to support our customer is offering some professional services. Customer use it mainly to act as an extension of their team, or maybe if they are busy on some projects and they need more resources, or if some skills are lacking. And yeah, of course, sometimes also delegating the non-value add projects also makes sense. We also have our offering listed in the AWS Marketplace. This means that you can purchase Continent 8 services directly through the AWS Marketplace. Why would you do that? Well, first of all, it simplifies your procurement process. Every line item, let's say, that you are buying from Continent 8 will appear in the AWS invoice. And this will also help you meet your AWS EDP, so Enterprise Discount Program commitments. So let's suppose that you committed with AWS to spend a certain amount of money. Now you can also add what you're spending with Continent 8 as part of, let's say, the sum that will go towards this commitment. We recently also joined the Solutions Provider Program, also called SPP. And what we do is we want to really simplify the management of the AWS accounts and the workload, right? So we can just incorporate that as part of our organization and manage your billing seamlessly.
Thanks, Matteo. And I guess maybe similar question to you then, Manthan. What are AWS saying from a partnership with Continent 8?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as it was mentioned before, the betting and gaming industry is a complex space to navigate for our customers with varying regulations between countries. And if you look at jurisdictions like the United States, even between state lines. So Amazon Web Services was really looking for a partner here that not only possessed the technical know-how of how AWS offerings could be leveraged, but also had a deep industry knowledge required to help our customers navigate this complex regulatory landscape. And so really the goal of partnership between AWS and Continent 8 is to enhance that overall customer experience as they're building these regulated betting and gaming workloads. Continent 8's managed offerings around things that Matteo mentioned, EKS or Elastic Kubernetes Service, as well as our hybrid edge products like Outpost, combined with the presence that Continent 8 offers, where AWS doesn't currently have a viable location, right? No regions, local zones, or availabilities or wavelengths. It really that's where that partnership shows its strength. Customers are still able to fully leverage AWS technologies while meeting their requirements and reducing that operational overhead.
Great, thank you. And I'll remind the audience as well, if you do have any questions for the team here today, please do write them in chat, and we'll be more than happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. But maybe, Manthan, if we could maybe sort of take this theory and put it into reality a little bit and talk a little bit about one key mutual client.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we're talking about FanDuel, and FanDuel is the largest sportsbook operator in the United States. So when states started to legalize online sports betting in 2021, FanDuel came to Amazon Web Services with an ask, and that was, how do we speed up the time it takes to deploy our infrastructure when a new state launches? And for operators like FanDuel, being the first to market in each state is critical, as this influences the market share that the operator captures. So as states announced go live dates at the time, in addition to procuring the hardware, FanDuel also needed to decide where was the location that they could operate in order to meet their residency requirements. And the combination of the two efforts took approximately 15 to 16 weeks of preparation ahead of a launch in the new market. So working with Continent 8, we were able to decrease this time down to 20 days. And we did this by leveraging Continent 8 facilities where no regions, wavelength zones, local zones, or viable locations existed, along with our hybrid edge offerings like AWS Outposts. For those who are unfamiliar with what an outpost is, think of it as a managed 42U rack or a 1U, 2U server that we can ship to a data center of your choosing. And then once this is in place, the offering extends AWS's presence beyond our established locations so that you can use the same pipelines, APIs, and even core services like Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2, our virtual machine offering in this edge location. Once it's deployed, you just have to basically create a subnet, and the subnet would point to the outpost, and then anything you deploy in that subnet would reside at that edge location. So that's what an outpost is, and what we deployed for FanDuel in order to meet their requirements. The last thing I want to point out on this slide is, by doing this, in addition to decreasing the time to market, we also saw an increase in the performance of the application stack. So because Outpost leverages the same hardware and virtualization stack, it's what's present in our regions. FanDuel saw a 30 to 40% improvement in their application performance over their previous OpenStack deployment. So there was a direct impact to the end user experience here as well.
Great. And how do you sort of recommend that customers sort of securely connect that Outpost back into that AWS region then?
Yeah, so Outpost is a connected service. It needs to have connectivity back to in what we call an anchor region in order for the control plane traffic as well as the data plane. And one way to do this was using a combination of Continent 8's MPLS network, which also allows communication between sites, and also using that network to extend to one of our points of presence so that we can build a direct connect circuit. And that direct connect circuit provides a low latency, resilient, and high performant connectivity that you would need.
Awesome, thank you. And thank you for sort of maybe bringing that partnership to life. And thank you mostly to FanDuel for trusting both AWS and Continent 8 for a number of years now. Matteo, maybe we could talk a little bit then about how we're looking to build on this already successful partnership and really begin to innovate and support our customers in new ways.
Absolutely, Carl. So I guess probably how we approach it is we really decided what to focus on in terms of roadmap and products, looking at the customer pain points, right? So as a vision, we really want to be your partner of choice, right? And we want to be the best place where you could run this regulated and hybrid workload that we spoke about. So linking back to what Manthan was saying, right? We discussed Outpost, for example. And one of the pain points that emerged is that when a customer has to order an Outpost, right? So this chunk of AWS that would be kept on-prem in a data center to just extend the capabilities, right? A customer has to interface with AWS, with us for the hosting, and with potentially third-party companies that would do maintenance on this Outpost, right? So we, as part of the managed Outpost offering, we really want to take over this administrative overhead and just simplify the life for our customer. In a similar fashion, Managed Hybrid Network wants to abstract the complexity of setting up direct connect or VPN connections to connect all the different sites, right? That include on-prem infrastructure and the hyperscale cloud as AWS. So also in this case to save some operational overhead for the customer. As you can see on the third point, so hybrid infrastructure, this comes from the what we notice is that not all customers need an Outpost, right? Some of them, they have a smaller footprint for which Outpost would be an overkill, and they're probably not fully used or leveraged. Imagine, for example, if your architecture just has Kubernetes in it, or maybe you just need a simple way of managing Kubernetes and a database and maybe some object storage. So this is exactly what we've done with these independent components that we call Kubernetes everywhere, databases everywhere, and storage everywhere, right? So you can just abstract first of all from the on-prem infrastructure and just use the services that you need. Last but not least, when regulate guardrails, this is wants to help customers that are moving to a new jurisdiction, or potentially they want to have some support in knowing what are the best practices when operating somewhere. So that's why regulate guardrails is a landing zone for technical compliance in the cloud, right? So imagine having a set of preventive and detective guardrails that could help you shape your environment, monitor it, and act on that, prioritizing some actions to make your cloud environment compliant. Does it make sense, Clara? Any question?
I think that does make sense. But so are you saying sort of Continent 8 now are becoming more and more of like a technology business rather than simply sort of a partnership business?
To be honest, also speaking with people within Continent 8, I really think that Continent 8 has always been this technologically focused company, right? Think about the existing already cloud offering that we have, for example, implementing VMware, implementing Nutanix, or implementing and supporting customers as of now, for example, for migrations from VMware to Nutanix. So yeah, this really strong engineering and technological focus, you can see it from a security offering, but also from all the backbone network that interconnects all of the 100 plus location.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And then maybe one more question, if you don't mind, Matteo. On the hybrid infrastructure piece, I think there could be some people out there thinking, is that increasing my sort of complexity, or what really? How do you solve for that?
Sure. So what we focused on, or what we want to provide to the customer, is a way of, let's take the case of Kubernetes, right? You are running Kubernetes in AWS, for example, running EKS. So you have a certain Kubernetes distribution running on top of some infrastructure, in this case AWS. What we want is really to provide you a seamless way of, for example, if you have to move this workload in a regulated location, for example, on our private cloud, you could do that seamlessly, right? So each one of these products, and same as the database everywhere, right? So most of our customers, we notice that they have to self-manage databases on-prem. So some of the things we can do is investigating also if it's a good fit to have a kind of DB as a service on-prem, right? Which can generally simplify and remove some of the lines of code managing backups, managing snapshotting, managing all the operations around database.
Thank you, Matteo. And I think before we move on, we have actually had a question in. I think it's pertinent that we would sort of keep on this slide, if that's okay. So David has asked, how does this solution manage compliance into regulatory frameworks into new jurisdictions?
Yeah, so we in Continent 8, we have a team that is the regulatory affairs team, which on a daily basis they provide suggestions and to customer and help our customer be, let's say, compliant and successful in wherever they are, their plans and where to go, right? So for regulate guardrails, we generally leverage their let's say expertise, but also the fact that they are always on top of what's going on, and especially we can provide the service of also updating this kind of compliance. In terms of, if you put it from a technological point of view, if we speak about an AWS environment, we can achieve these controls, for example, enforcing via service control policies or through config control tower, but also fetching these informations to, for example, presenting a conformance pack, right? Or just using an audit manager to centralize all of this finding, right? So, of course, in this case, based on the necessity and the requirements from a customer, and depending what cloud environment and what jurisdiction, we can find the best tailored solution to help them implement this set of guardrails.
Thank you, Matteo and David. I hope that begins to answer your question. But we are here to sort of support, and we can look into your specific use case if it's of interest as a team. This is a quick fire webinar, and I do want to leave some time for questions at the end as well. So do please get any questions in the additional questions that you have in at the moment as well. But I also just want to take a moment to thank everybody for their time and for listening to us three rattle on. I do want to leave just 5 minutes for questions. So if there are any questions from the audience, please do fire them, and I'll send them either Manthan or Matteo's way now and try and get you some quick answers. In the meantime, though, please do scan this QR code if you're able to on a mobile device, and feel free to book in a meeting with us where we can go through anything specific for you as well. Matteo has also just kindly, if you are on a laptop, and I'm sure most of you are, sent out a link so that you can go onto our landing page and do the same there. Well, let's have a look for some questions here then.
So sure that you will probably find us at the conferences around the world at the same time, but this is, let's say, opportunity that we wanted to offer, in case you want to discuss something that might involve both hybrid and Continent 8 and AWS, right?
Yeah, and I would just advise, if you are developing a workload that has specific requirements, specific architectures, please engage us sooner than later, because we would love to discuss with you, figure out what best practices to implement into that design and all the good stuff.
Yeah, I think that's so maybe a good place to start, actually, Manthan. So sort of quick question here for you then. Given an outpost has a limited set of services upon it, how do you best architect to actually leverage an outpost best?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple approaches that you can take here. The one that I've seen with the customers I work with is for those edge locations, right, being restricted in the number of or the types of services that are available, right? You'd want to design your architecture to meet that common lowest denominator. If EC2 and EBS and RDS are the services that are available on the outpost, then you'd want to design your architecture around those services. And the reason why you might want to do that is so that you can build one template for infrastructure as code and use that template to deploy everywhere, versus having to customize the templates and have different patterns for different locations based on the services that are available. So yeah, that's a pattern that I've seen. Of course, then other customers I've worked with, they want the most performance. They want the newest, latest, and greatest services available in the region, and they're okay with building multiple deployment patterns based on a location, right? So this is really where the discussion between Matteo, myself, and your team, we'd like to get involved and kind of help you make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And a question's come in here from Chris as well, and this might fall into the future-looking statements, but I'll ask it anyway, Manthan. Is there any news on RDS being rolled out for local zones?
That would be a roadmap question that I need to defer to the service team on, but I'm happy to follow up with you, Chris. Yeah, we'll get that answered.
Yeah, and rest assured, everybody, we will be following up on your questions as best we can and as quickly as we can. Another question here from Matthew. Do you offer services that will make EKS Anywhere solutions easier to set up and manage?
Yes. So if we take we have our infrastructure is EKS Anywhere ready, so we can run it for a customer. What we've also noticed, and that's why we prefer to call it Kubernetes everywhere, right? Just to include multiple possibilities, let's say an option for our customer. But we, as part of the Kubernetes everywhere offering, we can implement for and provide to the customer EKS Anywhere. Right, so it means that there will be a certain, you will leverage the Continent 8 cloud, and on top of it, we will have EKS Anywhere deployed and installed, and you will have access to it. But other customer, and this is generally coming from other requests and probably choices of the Kubernetes distribution to use, maybe wanted to use Rancher, right? So have a single pane of glass to manage containers in a multi-cloud fashion, and also importing the containers living at the edge and orchestrating everything through Rancher as a container management solution. And on the opposite side, we had also customers that are building and leveraging Kubernetes, running Kubernetes over the Nutanix infrastructure. So leveraging NKE, so the Nutanix Kubernetes engine, or now called the NKP, so Nutanix Kubernetes platform. So just to say that there are many options, and more than happy to align also with whatever, discuss whatever is your preferred option, and just supporting that.
Yeah, and I think what we're trying to develop a little bit here at Continent 8 is to be as agnostic as possible for our clients, so that we can support you and make sure that you make the right decisions. I think from a technology perspective, you're talking to three Amazonians, so we may have a slight bias sometimes, but if you have a specific technology that you really want to leverage and you think there's a reason for it, we'll sit around the table either virtually or in person and work out what's best for you. Another question here: what infrastructure as code options do you have for your cloud offering?
Yeah, so on the AWS side, we support both Terraform and CloudFormation. CloudFormations are native first-party tool, and Terraform, we have providers like the AWS provider, and then you can use that to deploy the resources. Yeah.
And same thing from when we talk about edge infrastructure and Continent 8 infrastructure, for example, let's think about Nutanix, VMware. Also in this case, we have a follow the sun cloud engineering support that as well leverage Terraform and Ansible to manage all of the deployments via infrastructure as code.
Okay, and some more questions coming in here. I've just seen them in the chat rather than the Q&A. So, question from John here: do you offer services related to generative AI workloads, including navigating the data privacy landscape and regulations such as GDPR? That's a toughie.
So, Continent 8 as a AWS partner, right, and also as part of our Preserve division, we are more than happy to discuss with you your goals and what are your plans, and try to come over with ideas and try to work with you in terms of implementing potentially a POC on that. We currently are building a POC internally on how to leverage, let's say, on a topic that is really related to this one, and really the POC that we are building wants to provide, first of all, insights and value to the company itself, getting comfortable with these GenAI, say, workloads and best practices, also in terms of security, because there's many perspectives in which is important to grant. Say, you have to be conscious about many interaction or how it's actually used by the customer, by the end user in general. So, in short, we are building some products as well internally, and we are more than happy also to investigate with you what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Continent 8 tries to be as much as possible customer led, right? So we'd also value your feedback on whether or not you think what we're doing is a good idea, John. So please, if it's okay, we'd love to follow up with you on that question. I think we'll do one final question here then from David. Does this solution provide for compliance across multiple frameworks such as GDPR?
So, for example, I suppose here we are talking about regulate guardrails, right? I suppose, but anyway, if the idea is more being specific towards the regulated betting and gaming industry requirements per jurisdiction, right? So we are not a legal advisor, right, in this case, but what we provide is best practices and some, let's say, set of guardrails that will help you form a technical implementation, right? There will be company and also services and third-party services that will help you more of a legal point of view. What we can do, and as I mentioned before, is connect you with a regulated affair team. But really, what we more than focusing on like GDPR, we want to tackle this and be specific on providing guidance on certain specific requirements for the industry.
Yeah, on that point, like if you do have specific requirements related to GDPR or some other framework, and the question is, how do I implement this particular requirement in my architecture, right? That's where Matteo and I can provide some guidance on like, hey, here's how config or SCP guardrails can be used to kind of do this specific task. But like like Matteo said, the legal component, yeah, we would need to defer to a third party.
And I think we're about at time. I'm afraid, everybody. But look, thank you for your engagement. Thank you for all your questions, and please do get in touch with us. We're more than willing to hold discussions. All together as in the spirit of partnership, right? So yeah, thank you, Manthan. Thank you, Matteo. Really appreciate your time, and thank you everyone for speaking with us.